texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.
Now joining me this evening.
Dennis Burnside.
Charles Thomas.
Paget Maynard.
Okay, man, we got a whole bunch of stuff to cover. But we look in Georgia, and I guess Georgia's like most of the other states. After you leave out Augusta and a few more of those places, then you get nothing but whites there. And I thought, which my man was up 2, but you say he's up 5.
Well, there's different polls that come out at different times, and some you got to be careful, man. There's been a couple polls that have been revealed to be run by a couple high school kids,
okay,
who aren't even old enough to vote yet, and have Republican parents who are big donors, and they put out a poll, and it was included in the 538 average until they found out who they were. So you gotta not just accept any poll, just like you wouldn't accept any sandwich somebody hands you on the street. You want to know where it came from, what's in it.
Yeah.
So most of the credible polls that we see from credible sources show that Warnock's up anywhere between 3 and 5 points.
Okay.
In Georgia consistently, and you never know, because with Georgia, like most states, it's going to come down to turnout. Evidence of an electrified, motivated Democratic electorate has been seen in the number of people who have participated in the early voting.
Okay.
And it's even bigger than it was in 2020
Okay.
or 2018.
Okay.
People are aware of the issues, and they're coming out in massive numbers to vote. And being that the Republicans have made it their business over the last 2 election cycles to say we don't want mail-in voting, we don't want early voting,
Yep.
after previously making their case
Yeah.
with early voting and mail-in voting, it's real hard for me to conclude anything other than the Democratic Party's turning out huge numbers in Georgia and some of these other early voting states. Beyond that, I think there's a lot of people in Georgia, and I heard this when I was down there a couple weeks ago, who are just outright offended by the idea that you put the caricature of the stereotypical black man that they like to tell us that we are. You're good athletes, but you're not that smart.
Yeah.
You're not responsible. You don't take care of your children.
Yeah.
You don't take care of your money.
Right.
You're not really bright enough to be a leader. They put the manifestation of that stereotype out there in the form of Herschel Walker, who I'm surprised before we get off the show today that there won't be another press release about another woman saying that she was forced to have an abortion because he impregnated her. And then you go to the fact that the man is an inveterate liar. I was a sheriff. I graduated number 1 in my class, didn't even graduate. Just, on and on down the line, the man has no character, but that's who the Republican Party put out there. And what they're saying is, one of these N-words is as good as the other one, and we got one that's willing to go with us. Maybe that'll pull off a few of theirs, and with our Trump base, we'll be able to win this Senate seat. That's their plan for winning that seat.
When you think of this guy, Herschel, talking about the biggest threat, and this might come up later about threat to democracy, I got to read you something he said. The biggest threat to democracy is to have someone like incumbent Democrat, Senator Warnock, vote against our Keystone Pipeline, which put us under international threat. Keystone Pipeline. Then again, he said the biggest threat is to have Biden in the White House. So he doesn't even have a perception. From what I'm hearing, the experts said the pipeline was only going to produce about 1%, which is minimal to producing 1% of oil.
And it's all offshore. None of it's used in America.
But see,
None of the Keystone Pipeline oil is used in America. But see, that's again the reliability of the ignorant voter who votes for the Republicans. They hear Keystone, they hear oil,
Yeah.
they look at the gas pump, they say the Democrats stopped
Yep.
that, must be the reason why my gas prices are so high.
Mhm.
They don't look internationally, see
No.
everybody's gas prices
No.
are up.
No.
They don't look at the war, they don't look at the effects of the pandemic is junking up the pipeline and making things more expensive. They can't think that that's
No.
too
Right,
that's too
I
that's
got to,
too
I got to give you
involved.
another one that he said before you go. He said, and also put men in women's sports, which he, Warnock, voted for. Then he went on, the biggest threat to democracy is to have the people that the Democrats right now lead in this country, cause they seem to be taking this country in the wrong direction. And I think Americans see that and they know that.
well, you
Now,
know,
I don't know what that,
you know, well, see, the thing is this: Republicans know that if they get him in there, you know, they get him. They already got the guy from South Carolina. They can tell them what to say, what to say, and everything.
And how to vote.
a matter of fact,
Yeah.
Right.
You
I
know?
guarantee
Yeah,
you.
Mouser.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll sure enough be
Yeah.
happy
You
to.
know?
You know, because they gonna get some more butter biscuits.
Right.
They gonna get to sit at the
Yeah.
big table. Yeah, man. It's really insulting to any thinking human being. I don't care how much melanin you have or don't have, to have somebody foist someone up on you like that who has no character,
No.
has no experience, has no intellectual capacity
No.
to understand the bills he's even voting on,
Yeah.
is the ideal candidate for my party,
Yeah.
because then they can't say we racist
Right.
and we can control this
Yeah.
Negro.
Well, you know, I mean, speaking of that, that's how we got Clarence Thomas.
Of course,
You know,
of course.
you know.
Yeah.
I can't see Herschel Walker no different than these preachers in our community. You know,
Well,
Except they don't vote.
right?
They're not one of 100 people in an exclusive club. There's a whole lot of preachers out here, and they can be adhered to or they can be ignored. And I hear you on the damage that they do with this, especially with this prosperity gospel crap. And they drive around in Cadillacs and 2-3 houses, and their flock is struggling to keep the lights on. I hear you on that. But with the Senate, it's much more
Yeah.
important. It's much more impactful, because that fool down there in Georgia is going to impact my life. It's
Yeah.
going to impact my children's lives
Yeah.
in the states they live in.
and
That's what I'm saying. The preachers also is affecting our community and filling up these prisons with our young men and destroying the black family.
yeah, you're right. But see, what will happen with Clarence Thomas up there, and if Republican man if they get one of these houses back, you know, and don't mention if they get both houses back, we in big trouble.
But again,
I tell
Clarence
you
Thomas is the same as Herschel Walker in that he is a stereotypical black man in their eyes.
Mhm.
He has no moral compass. Clarence Thomas I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Clarence Thomas votes on issues where he has an obvious conflict of interest when any other justice would recuse themselves.
Yep.
He jumps right in and has no hesitation
Yeah.
about it.
yeah,
His wife is an insurrectionist. His wife is against the United States government.
yeah.
And he votes in issues she's directly involved with, and he certainly
Yeah.
had foreknowledge of.
Yeah.
Like the January 6th insurrection. He knew all was going to happen.
Yeah.
He's sleeping with the enemy.
Yeah.
But for him, that's fine.
Yeah.
Now, again, Thurgood Marshall, a brilliant intellectual, a man who had morality, who had integrity, who voted based on what he thought was best from
And the law.
a universal spiritual perspective and the law. What does Clarence Thomas do? He does what the white supremacists tell him to do. Same way that Tim Scott does, and the same way Herschel Walker will if he's elected. He will do what he's told. He'll be a good boy.
And that's why I said it's time that we start something to get Clarence off the bench.
Well,
And
you know,
don't tell me it can't happen.
Well,
it can.
we-
We're gonna work at it.
yeah, we you know, that'll be that's something kind of down on my
Okay, but
because-
I have it
because-
up here now.
because
Yeah.
he's got
But it should be thrown out in the universe.
yeah, but see, the thing about these judges, and for me, I've been saying a long time, they should have 20 or 25 years, and that's it.
Well, there's a lot of people talking about an 18-year term, and it is possible to impeach a Supreme Court justice.
Oh,
It's
yes.
happened before in the past, but it's not going to happen between now and the end of Biden's term, which is when we need it the most. But my larger point is, think as individual voters out there, and again, I don't care if you're of African descent. I don't care if you're of Asian descent. I don't care if you're European descent. The idea that someone is clownish and unqualified as Herschel Walker is being put up in front of you as a viable candidate for the U.S. Senate ought to be insulting. You should take offense to that. But you've got people down there talking about what a great man he is. Here's a man who held a gun to his wife's head multiple times, told her he'd blow her head off. Here's a man who was so ill that he threatened suicide and held the gun to his own head. That's who we need in the Senate? And I could go on and down the list of the things, the lies he's told, the way he's forced women he's impregnated while he was married to other women to get an abortion. And then they turn around and say, but he's the moral compass that we need because these Democrats are of Satan.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh
like,
no, the
really?
Democrats are the ones who
Are
are,
you that-
child molesters and
Right.
that kind of thing.
Well, see, the thing is that it used to be, and we've talked about this before, 30-some years ago, I respected the Republican. You know, I didn't believe anything, didn't want to do anything that they said, and all these different things, but I respected them because they had morals. But now, the Republicans, all they want to do is have power.
Yeah, it's organized crime.
I wasn't old enough to experience the Eisenhower administration, but I am old enough to pick up a book going back to the Eisenhower administration, and it's my opinion that since Eisenhower, you haven't had one Republican who's run based on an objectively moral platform. You had Nixon use a Southern strategy.
Oh no.
After the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Act passed, and LBJ said we've lost the South for a generation, he underestimated. And Nixon knew it too. And Nixon went out there and he started running on his Southern strategy, which was designed to get these white Southern voters who resented the new social movement to enfranchise African and Hispanic voters into the body politic, and he used that to move Democrats who had been there since before the Civil War, because that's who the Confederates were before the Civil War. They were Democrats, and he used them en masse to get Republicans to come his way. Then after that, you had Gerald Ford, who took a guy who should have been facing criminal charges and he pardoned them. Okay, and then you had Reagan,
Yeah, Ronald
who
Reagan.
ran up on on this whole thing about America is great again, and
Yeah.
we've got this big buck on welfare. You know what the
Yeah.
images, the Willie Horton
Yeah.
thing with Bush,
Mm-hmm.
the election shenanigans with Bush 1 in Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My point is, I don't think we've seen a moral Republican president
No.
in my lifetime,
No.
and I'm 64 years old.
Yeah. No.
So I don't think we've seen one. So you were around when Eisenhower was
Yeah.
president. You know better than me, but I haven't seen one in my lifetime.
No.
I think they're all doing what they need to do to get elected so that they can serve the uber wealthy. That's what they do.
Right. Well, I was just me and Patrick was just talking about this woman from Arizona. When she took office, she had $62,000 or $63,000 in the bank.
Talking about cinema,
Yeah.
Senator Sinema.
And now she's got almost
2 million or something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's a corruption of the entire political system that we have now. Again, ushered in by right-wing activists, the Federalist Society, telling young law school students how they need to render their opinion in cases in the future, and if they do so, they'll have the support. That's how Clarence Thomas got in there.
Yeah.
Clarence Thomas, again, is the epitome
Yeah.
of affirmative action.
Yeah.
Affirmative action got him into
Yeah,
to college.
he is.
Affirmative action
Yeah.
got him into law
Yep,
school.
yeah.
Affirmative action got him his first federal bench
Yep.
position. And the first thing this raccoon does is he votes every chance
Yeah.
he gets against affirmative
yeah,
action
yeah.
because the Federal Society said, "Be a good boy and vote the way we tell you to."
Right. And in fact,
And that's what they do.
in fact, some of the things that's coming up next year, there's going to be a bunch of things, and he's already said that a lot of these things, man.
Yes, the use of racial considerations in admissions in college.
Yeah.
And there's a case going right
They-
now.
Yeah, the last Monday when we were in here, they were that case was before the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
they were
and
making arguments there.
something Clarence said he didn't understand. I guess maybe his first speech in the thing come out now something he's saying he didn't know what they mean by that.
Well,
and
see-
the job he had before going to the court
EOC,
was in charge. The
Equal Opportunity
thing.
Commission.
Yeah.
Man, he's crazy.
Yeah. Now, how about here in Michigan? We got
Michigan looks good.
people running. We
Yeah,
got
Michigan looks good. The governor looks good. The state representatives looks good. Where the numbers are very encouraging. Secretary of State, the whole nine. Look who they're running against, though. Election deniers.
Yeah.
A whole gang
You know,
of them.
2020, the election was stolen. Where's your evidence?
Yeah.
I just believe it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the caliber of candidate they're running against. The the Republican Party, pardon me, has been hollowed out. All the traditional positions that they took, which was limited government, smaller government, conservative spending,
Yeah.
things like that. That's all been hollowed
yeah.
out, and it's filled up with these Trumpanzees
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
all they care about is raw power.
Oh, yeah.
And what they want to do with that power is take us back 50, 60
Yeah.
years from a social political construct where women have reduced rights.
Yep.
African Americans and Hispanic and Asian Americans have reduced rights
Yep.
and access to the vote. That's where they want to take
Oh, yeah.
us. And what really amazes me is they've been able to find a fair amount of Uncle Toms out here
Oh, yeah.
to run under their banner.
Oh, yeah.
And I always wonder, what do you think they're going to do with you if they get what they want?
Yeah.
If they get the power that
Yeah.
they want, they pass the laws that they want, and all of a sudden, guys like me can't check into the Marriott in certain states
Yeah.
because they got rules against
Yeah.
black people
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
eating in the restaurant.
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to do? You going to get a good Negro pass?
Yeah.
What they going to give you a little barcode on your
Yeah.
forehead?
Yeah.
I mean, I was a good one, boss.
Yeah.
Sticker.
Yeah.
I mean, how do they? I don't understand these people, man.
Well,
Don't they
and then
see
it's
the
just because
logical
they're not
conclusion of what
thinking.
they're advocating for?
Well, but
they're
see,
going back to racism.
yeah, but that's like
White supremacy.
like what you said, Patrick. They not thinking, man. It's like all of a sudden, man. It's like they on the same page with these with these.
People who hate them.
Yeah,
I see
They're-
people out there with the placards. Blacks for Trump. Hispanics for Trump.
yeah.
Asians for Trump.
Wow.
Wait a second. Do you understand what this man has to say about you? What he will do to you? And how much of a user he is? Trump has no use for anybody other than
Well-
where they can make him look good, make him some money.
Well,
Or you get these arguments from some of these Negroes that, well, I don't look at black or white, I look at green, and the Republicans about that money. Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's look at green. Let's look at green. Let's look at jobs created Republican versus Democratic administration. Democrats win. Let's look at the GDP under Democratic presidencies versus Republican presidencies. The record is plain and clear. GDP is better under Democratic.
Dennis.
Unemployment is lower.
Yeah.
You could go down the line. Real income is high. And yet they watch these commercials and they listen to these talk
47.
shows and
Yeah.
they're convinced by this dogma, which has nothing to do with reality.
No.
And they think, well, they're about business. I want to be like them. I want to be rich too, boss.
yeah. And
Can't
pitiful,
you see
man.
what you're saying there is the exact opposite the Republicans are saying now?
Of course it is.
Even with this last report, employment, they still pushing it down. 265, something like that, 1,000 new jobs. Look, the unemployment. It's this. And the fools can't see unemployment here is so much better than other places that they're saying to go to.
Well, the thing is that, as Dennis was saying, the thing is, man, is that people, a lot of people just grab some of what's being said, you know. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all. All they want to do is, and they'll beat on that, you know, all the time, and that's just like now we got millions of people out here. All they want to watch is Fox, you know. They don't watch anything else but Fox.
Or more importantly, don't read newspapers.
Right.
I tell people who call themselves Republicans, who call themselves conservative, all right, you conservative, I assume you read the Wall Street Journal. Oh, no, I watch TV. No, you ain't a conservative.
No.
Because the Wall Street Journal actually has a very credible section of their newspaper. Their reporting is spot on, even though they're a conservative paper. It's when you get to the opinion page where you start seeing the old Republican dogma about trickle-down economics works and smaller government is beneficial. You see that crap, but when it comes down to reporting the facts, that's where it is. But see, Fox News has no use for that. Rupert Murdoch owns both of them. One, he has to tell the truth because his readers demand it, because his readers say, look, man, I make my money based on reality, not on your little fantasy over here you give to Sean Hannity shovelhead butt
Right.
and Tucker Carlson little KKK riding butt.
Can't
Yeah.
imagine
That's what
people
they
telling
do.
me these are
But over
intelligent
here,
people.
Player, you want my money, you better tell me the straight up truth. And
Yeah.
that's where you get it. But see, your real conservatives, there's not enough of them. You got to have these fools who are indoctrinated and filled with propaganda from Fox News and its ilk in order to stay viable.
Yep. And we see, man, it's so miserable with these people out here. Like you said, don't read anything, you know. All they want to do is watch a Fox, you know, and
Go listen to hate radio.
yeah, you know. So that's where they at. So I mean, when you get down to the point, you can't get through to them, you know, because they sold on what they want to be sold on.
You
know?
could go to January 6th about 7 o'clock till about 10 o'clock that night.
Mhm.
All of their commentators were horrified by what they saw.
Oh yeah.
They were talking about we need to do something. You could look at the investigation. You could see where Laura Ingraham and Hannity and all these guys are trying to call Trump to tell him to call his dogs off. This is horrible. You're ruining your legacy. People are going to get hurt. All that night. This was a disgrace. This was a smear on America's history. La la la. The next day,
They said a different
the next
story.
day, beginning with the Fools and Friends in the morning, they had a whole new dogma where it was Antifa. It was secret Negroes.
Yeah.
It was them. It wasn't us.
Yeah.
And okay, that was all January 7th. It was somebody else.
Yeah.
And then on the 8th and 9th and 10th, you started seeing them, trotting out this little test case. Well, it was us. It was justified. It was justified because
these are Americans
and they've been, they kept test driving.
Remember they came
and they
were
came up with a
visiting.
reason to say that January 6th wasn't a big deal. And to the extent that it happened, it was justified because these are patriots who want free and fair elections.
Yeah.
That's what they settled. But they told the truth the first day.
Yeah.
They told the truth the first day.
You were saying, Patrick?
These folks, they were visitors, on an organized tour when there should not have been any tours anyhow. So how could you justify that now? Look, when you start lying, you better learn to keep your mouth straight. Keep what you say. Remember, a liar must have a good memory because you're going to find yourself having to lie and lie and lie in order to try to cover this one because you didn't keep it straight.
Well, they like Dennis said, they tried to change this to that and this and
The caveat is to what Padgett just said is you could lie to the cows come home if you have a receptive audience who wants to be lied to. They'd rather be lied to than told the truth.
Yeah.
That's what they'd
They'd rather be lied to. Tell me a lie. Tell me what I want to hear. Don't tell me that was my neighbor was a fool for doing what he did. Because now, the January 6th committee, that's another perfect example. When they started in the spring, they were horrified. It knocked them back on their feet. By the end of the summer, the evidence came in. We have the plan, who carried it out, and what their objectives were. And their response to that was going back to where they were in the first place. It wasn't us. It was Antifa.
Yeah.
And they got people saying, it must have been Antifa. I didn't watch the hearings because they're not real. It's fake.
But they refuse to call it a coup.
Yeah.
Of course they don't.
Yeah.
How
You
could
never
they?
call a coup because if you succeed, 11/22/1963, you don't have to admit it was a coup. You just keep on moving in the direction you're at. And if you fail, the first thing you say is, I wasn't doing that. So people never call a coup.
Right.
They never do, win or lose. They never admit to it. Now, if you come in from the outside and you take over the government, of course, that's just us being smart.
Yeah. But the rest of the world look at it and they see what it is.
Of course.
Well,
And they see the ignorance in it.
Yeah.
well, right now I don't hear these different people going to these different countries where these elections, and we just had a couple of elections, but we'll talk about that on the next show. That's going to be it for tonight. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki, and I'll catch you down the next block.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.